All right, welcome back to part two of the Win At Us Right Now podcast. X and KB coming at you as we always do. Thank you to everybody for watching us on YouTube or listening to us on any podcast platform, however you get your podcasts. And man, it finally happened in Dallas, KB. The fans have been clamoring for 9 months for the front office to fire Nico. And on Tuesday afternoon, that is exactly what happened. The Dallas Mavericks out to a 3-8 start this season, and they don't look good at all. We're hearing all types of things now about the team in terms of who's probably going to be there for the long term versus who's not. We'll get into those things in just a moment. But let's go back and refresh everybody's memory as to why this happened. Because there was a night in February of this year on a Saturday after the Lakers and Knicks had just finished playing on ABC, one of the best games of the year. Lakers, they didn't have Anthony Davis for that game either. And Laker Nation, man, we were feeling good coming out of that game because the Knicks had been having a good season up until that point. It's like, okay, we feel good about what we have to build on when AD comes back. Maybe less than 2 hours later, we got a shock notification heard around the world from Shams Charania saying that Luka Doncic had been traded to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis and Max Christie and I believe at least a second round pick and a first round pick. I might have the picks incorrect. All I remember is that was the shock notification heard around the sports world. We're all sitting there. It's like, come on, bro. Is this the real Shams right now? Like, we are looking is like, okay, you see the blue check, but anybody can get a blue check at this point. Is this really Shams? And it really was Shams. And I don't think that it's been too many other sports trades that have happened in my life that I will forget about that made me feel in that moment what it did. For the Lakers fans, I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you, Nico. We appreciate you. You gave us a new lease on life because although Anthony Davis had been having a strong season up to that point, KB, he was on the mend. And that's the thing when it comes to AD. As great of a player as he is, he just has not consistently been able to stay healthy, even though he had been on a good trend up until that point prior to that injury. But if he was still on the Lakers right now, would he be on the mend right now? I mean, we don't know. And it just was a future that looked like it was going nowhere. And you can't continue to build around a going on 41-year-old superstar. That's just not something you can do. So, Nico, on behalf of Laker Nation, in midst of everything that's going on right now, I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you. We're not bringing you in for no job, but we'll send you a fruit basket or something for Christmas of some sort. We'll send you. We'll have you probably don't want them, but we'll have Luka's new shoes sent to your house. He's not going to send them to you, but we'll have somebody from the organization sending. We'll give you something for your troubles because you gave us a new lease on life. Because that organization was not going anywhere too fast. Didn't have draft picks for the future. Nothing. The Dallas Mavericks fans, however, they've been wanting this guy gone for the past 9 months. And to the point that I believe that the fire Nico chance had become a bit of a distraction. As a matter of fact, somebody tweeted KB about Cooper Flagg being at the free throw line and having to hear fire Nico chance and how he shouldn't have to deal with that. His mom actually liked or retweeted that. And I'm sure that didn't help. And before I toss it off to you, the owner of this team, and we're going to talk about him in just a moment, Patrick Dumont, he was seen talking courtside to a young fan who was wearing Luka's Lakers jersey at the game on Monday. And I believe this was Patrick Dumont's first game back in Dallas since the opening night at least. And he basically told the fan, according to the reports, that they made a mistake trading Luka away. He didn't realize how much Luka meant to the city. I don't know how you don't realize that. That's somebody who really is naive and, dare I say, ignorant to what it was that he invested in terms of the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA and what a star like Luka Doncic meant. But Nico Harrison is no more. They fired him on Tuesday, and I guess you can say that this is the start of a long rebuilding process that is ahead for Dallas, because that team that they assembled, they haven't been able to stay healthy, and most of those guys are just getting older.
Yeah, it's like that Luka trade. There's very few trades that we can point to in our life and say that shook the core of the NBA. Like, you have the Luka trade, then you have certain free agent signings like LeBron going to Miami, KD going to the Warriors. But like that trade was so significant that we all thought that the notification that we got was fake. We all thought this. And this is honestly one of those things that I'm also, it's very hard for me to believe that they didn't realize how important Luka was to the Mavericks organization, that how important he was to the city of Dallas. You just came off of a finals appearance the year before. And instead of trying to build off of that, you didn't feel that you could win with Luka Doncic as your main centerpiece. It was kind of just, one of those things that was like, it was coming for a long time. Nico also, I also feel bad for him in the sense that he never got enough time to see his dream come to fruition with Anthony Davis, Cooper Flagg, D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson being a disappointment. These were guys that were counted on. And I still honestly believe, when healthy, that this roster can be one of the best in the NBA. I just think that with the injuries mounted up, with the injuries mounted, it's going to be hard to see what this team can possibly be. Kyrie still, recovering from his injury. Like, on paper, when healthy, this team is one of the best teams. It could be potentially one of the best teams in the NBA. They have length, they have scoring, they can do a lot with this team. But I think that the fact that they have not been able to stay healthy is a reason why Nico Harrison is no longer the GM of the Dallas Mavericks. Now, that trade was very significant, like you said, for the Lakers, because that took the Lakers championship window and it kind of reopened it a little bit, because of the fact that nobody saw you competing with an aging LeBron James, with Anthony Davis, because you still had to face teams like Denver, and we seen what Jokic does every single time that he plays the Lakers in the playoffs. He is just a bad matchup, and that's where I feel like that you make a move like that, because you see that if the rumors, the one thing we know about like NBA GMs, NBA owners, they all talk. And if you are going to dangle a generational piece like Luka Doncic out there, hey, what do you want from him? Because I would have made that trade 10 times out of 10 times out of 10 times. I would have made that trade every single day and twice on Sunday. That's how much I believe that Luka is a generational player. No matter what you feel like he is, oh, he's lazy on defense. That very well could be the case. But he has more availability than Anthony Davis. And this isn't the same Anthony Davis that we saw in New Orleans. Those days are over. So the fact that you make a move to get rid of a generational piece, yeah, he was no matter what going to be hated in Dallas for that trade, no matter what. The fire Nico chants weren't just, they weren't unjustified. People were upset. You don't let go of a generational talent. These are like things that are like, the closest thing to a sin that you could get from a sports standpoint. You do not make that trade. I understand that you felt like you couldn't win with him, or that you didn't feel confident that he was going to be the player that was going to bring you a championship. But I don't see how you feel confident that he couldn't win you one, but you feel confident in a team of aging vets such as Kyrie Irving, who still is a great player when healthy, Klay Thompson, who's definitely on the decline, Anthony Davis, who is a great player when he's there, but he's never available, and a young Cooper Flagg, who we've seen, spurts that he can be a great player, but he still is trying to put it all together. So if that was going to be your core, those few players that I just mentioned, I just don't see how that is any better than having Luka Doncic and just adding on pieces. Like, from the Lakers, this is a win. Like, no matter what happens, this is going to be a win for them, because I do see a championship, at least a championship appearance in their future before I see a championship appearance in Dallas's future. I just feel, like I said, I feel like that Nico didn't get enough time to actually see if this, project would work, because of the unavailability of some of the main stars on this team. So, I wish him well. Like you said, Laker Nation he will always be a legend for Lakers Nation, for sure. But Dallas, yeah, I don't think he can go out too many places and actually just be, out and about. I'm not going to advocate for no violence, but these people are very, very upset that he traded like that. He was the king of Dallas. Luka was the king. There was nothing that people looked at Luka as he could do no wrong. So, I just see this as one of those things that he got to deal with the consequences that came from his own actions.
I will say this about things though. The owner in the statement that he came out and released, KB, he needs to take some accountability for what ended up happening here, because you didn't make that trade without going to the owner. And I've heard all the things that have came out this week. Oh, Patrick Dumont, he thought Nico was a basketball savant and he really trusted this guy. They built a great relationship with each other. I don't understand how you don't understand, as the owner of your franchise, what Luka Doncic means to the city of Dallas, what he meant to the city of Dallas. You should have known that there were issues once Dirk Nowitzki started pulling himself away from the organization. That is the Mavericks' all-time greatest player. Now that Luka's not there anymore, he will continue to be the Mavericks' all-time greatest player. It's just a matter of time now to me until Mark Cuban starts pulling away too. Because, man, this whole thing has just become a bit of a firestorm, to really say the least of it. And there were 3 players on the Mavs names that you didn't mention: Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington. And I have a feeling the reason you didn't mention their names is because we haven't felt their impact come anywhere close to being the same since Luka departed because of that trade.
Yeah, and one of the main guys that you just mentioned that benefited a lot from Luka being there was Derek Lively. Derek Lively was a lob threat day in, day out, and he presented something that the Mavericks needed, which was size in the middle, and like I said, an ability to take the attention off of Luka and be a role threat. PJ Washington was another guy who benefited from the attention that Luka had brought. And I feel bad for a guy like Klay Thompson, who turned down a deal to go to the Lakers to play with Luka. He actually took a pay cut to go play with Luka. And now Luka's not there. And now you're struggling. And it just shows that, like, sometimes, man, just you think that you're taking, like, you think that you have a great situation. And sometimes it's best to just, take care of yourself. Not worry about, like, things like that, because we all didn't see Luka. Nobody saw Luka getting traded. Like you said, it happened on a Saturday night where when I saw the notification, I thought it was fake. I thought it was one of those, like, with everything going on with Centel and all these parody accounts, I'm thinking that it was fake. I'm refreshing my page. I'm trying to make sure that, we didn't just get scammed again. But to just see that he had the cojones to make this trade, it just shows me that the owner, he was very aware of what was going on. But like you said, that statement, we didn't realize how valuable or how important Luka was to the city of Dallas. I don't believe that for 1 second. I do not believe that for 1 second. And you can look around the arena and just see the amount of Luka Doncic jerseys, the impact he had in that community, the fact that, they knew exactly what they had in Luka Doncic from his rookie year. Everyone did. So to say that you weren't aware, that just shows me either you live life in a bubble or you have very, very selective vision to what you want to see and not see. That is some of the least, that has to be some of the worst awareness I've ever seen from a GM and owner, to not recognize the superstar and generational talent that they had in a guy like Luka. I just think that we talked about coaching and malpractice. That is organizational malpractice, what they did. You do not do that. You don't make that trade. You don't get rid of a guy who is basically, he wanted to be here. That was the problem that I had. He wanted to be a Dallas Maverick, and you basically shipped him out the first chance you got. I have no issue with Nico being fired at all for this.
We should have saw some problems coming on the horizon, though, going back to when they clinched the Western Conference just months prior to that trade happening, though. Remember, Luka has got the beer in his hand, and Michael Finley walks across and he takes the beer out of his hand, and everybody who's watching that moment on TV, they literally see him take that beer. out of Luka Doncic's hand, you can't do that to the superstar of the team. Now, I can understand why he did that, but it's still something you don't do. My question now for you is, because we're starting to hear more this week, Anthony Davis at some point will more than likely get traded during the season. Klay Thompson will get traded. I feel like Klay Thompson's trade is going to end up being one of those situations where he ends up going to one of these bad teams and they have a buyout agreement and he ends up signing with the contender, if not be the Golden State Warriors, to close out his career, which I think will be over within the next year and a half or so. Not wishing anything bad on him, just judging based off of what we see out there on the court. It is a rapid decline from what Klay Thompson used to be. My question for you is, at some point, will we also see Kyrie Irving get traded? Because will he continue to be the model citizen in Dallas that he's been with everything that is now going on in that organization? Because I can guarantee you it's not the peace and harmony that it once was.
Yeah, but I think that you have to retain Kyrie. I think that with all these pieces that could potentially be on the move, because another guy who has, been advocating to be a Dallas Maverick was Kyrie. Kyrie has been pretty much, like you said, a model citizen. He's been on his best behavior, and he's been playing some of his best basketball in his career since he's been in Dallas. Now, I don't think that he would be the piece that I would move off of. I could see you wanting to move off of Klay, but I just don't see, like you said, I think that they're going to try to get some pieces, some young pieces out of that trade to see if anything, because I don't see his market being, him having the most volatile market out there. I think that he's going to have to be packaged with something, because him alone doesn't move like any team to trade for him, especially with the decline that he's had to start this year. He's been bad, really bad. And this is just something that we've seen. I would love to see him go back to Golden State for more of a feel-good story, but there's a lot of, feelings that from him versus the organization that have to get resolved before that even is a thing that we can even think about. I would love to see it, just because I felt like that he was one of those guys that deserved to retire a Golden State Warrior. I think that he shouldn't have never, explored it. And, this is just one of those things where time heals wounds. So maybe he sees that the grass ain't greener on the other side that he thought it was going to be, and he does get into like a buyout situation and returns back to Golden State, which would make me happy. As far as Anthony Davis, he's the most intriguing piece in this trade situation, because there are teams that are willing to pay top dollar to get Anthony Davis over there, even with the injury history, because they're betting on what he is when he is healthy. They're betting on that as his potential as a player, not more of the fact that he's, not available a majority of the time. Now, I could see him possibly going to a contender as well. What contender that would be, I'm not sure yet, because there are a number of teams that could use a guy like an Anthony Davis. Hopefully a team that is looking to put him in the 4 position that he likes to play, as opposed to making him their starting center, because I think that his body does not hold up well being a starting center in this league. I just don't see it because of the amount of injuries that he's had over the years. I would love to see him go back to his natural 4 position and be on a team that would give him the opportunity to play in the 4 position and, work his way to possibly be coming back to that all-star player that he's been in years past.
So let me ask you a question. Would you want to see Anthony Davis in Atlanta?
No. And I'll tell you why. Yes, Trae needs a great lob threat, but if the amount of pieces that we would have to offer Dallas to get Anthony Davis, I think, because there's no way, if you are asking for Anthony Davis, that the Dallas Mavericks don't ask for Jalen Johnson. And I am not making that trade if I'm the Hawks, unless there would be a package of something like a Ricochet, maybe even a couple of pieces like maybe even if you felt like Porzingis was not going to re-sign, then you make that trade. But if they are going to ask for someone like Jalen Johnson, who has turned into being one of the best players in the NBA, I do not make that trade. And I'm looking at it from a standpoint, you're looking at building a team of youth. Anthony Davis I don't think that he fits where they're trying to head. I think that he fits as far as a lob threat for Trae, guy who can play defense, who could be a cornerstone in that, defense. But I just don't know now. Now, if you asked me 2-3 seasons ago, that would have been a no-brainer because that's exactly the type of player that Trae needs alongside him. At this stage in his career, I don't know if you make that trade.
Wow, you did not fall for what I was hoping you would have fell for right there, because Jalen Johnson is not the piece that I was thinking that Dallas would be asking for in that trade. The piece I was thinking they actually would be asking for would be Trae Young. And that takes us into our next topic, because the Atlanta Hawks, they are 8-5 on the season so far. They are 7-2 since Trae Young went out with an injury on October 29th. That ball appears to be moving better and more freely. Jalen Johnson is coming into his own. He had a sensational game against the Utah Jazz last night, and this is a very deep team. What I was thinking was, in a world, and obviously just based off of everything you said, you clearly don't want to see Trae Young go yet. But I believe the question now officially needs to be asked. And I know it's a small sample size, but I'm just looking at what we're seeing on the court. Should the Hawks consider trading Trae Young? And if they were to do that, I imagine a piece like Anthony Davis is what you would want in return.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what this situation reminds me of. You remember a couple years ago, back when the Warriors dynasty was going on, KD being hurt, but they were still winning games. This kind of reminds me that you can win a few regular season games without him. And I'm not comparing Trae to KD or nothing like that. I'm just more so speaking on the fact that a small sample size does not dictate whether a team can win without someone. Trae Young has been one of the leaders in assists. So obviously he does, carry a certain amount of usage, a high usage rate. He's one of the leaders almost every year in usage rate. I just think that we need to pump the brakes because he was so heavy and he was such an influence in some of the guys that they recruited this offseason to come play in Atlanta. One being Luke Kennard, one being also Nickeil Alexander-Walker. These were guys he was advocating for the Hawks to go after. I just think that with Jalen Johnson, he presents something that I feel like that this should show Trae that he doesn't have to do the same thing. He doesn't have to score 30 a night. He doesn't have to have 15 assists. He can easily be a 23-10 player and still, and actually have a chance to win now because Jalen Johnson stepping into his own, being that point forward, the guy who can do literally everything on the court. I think that is the reason why you do keep Trae, because there's going to be times where Trae is going to be one of those guys that he is someone that you can go to in the clutch. Whether people want to admit it or not, Trae can be one of those players that can go get his own shot. There's not very many players on the Hawks still to this day that can go get their own. They play great in a system when they're in a team system, but they are not great one-on-one players. Trae Young is a great one-on-one player. He can go get it. If you're talking about someone to take the final shot of the game, and we're just saying a clear out, get out the way. We've seen Trae Young do it year in, year out. Now we're possibly seeing Jalen Johnson do it from a standpoint where he's doing it from an efficient standpoint. Jalen Johnson posted a stat line last night that no player in NBA history has ever posted. That just shows me that had he not been hurt last year, the Hawks were possibly fighting for a top 5 to 6 seed. That just shows me that the potential that Jalen Johnson has, and that's why I say, Trae doesn't have to be the number one. He doesn't. He can be a number 2 to Jalen Johnson, and that'd be fine. I just think that he is one of those guys that can structure an offense so much that you don't move off of him, because there are not too many great playmakers in this league that can also go get you 30 on any given night. I think you have to keep Trae. I don't want to see, him in another uniform, but if you do feel like that you're not going to make him an offer and extend him, then you have to try to trade him for some type of valuable assets so that he doesn't just walk in free agency for nothing.
Would you want a package that possibly the San Antonio Spurs could give you? Because here's the thing, before you even answer that, I just want you to know we are approaching the end of the Trae Young era in Atlanta. The front office is making that part very clear to me because if they really wanted him to stay there, they would have already got him his bag by now. This is looking very much close to like the Freddie Freeman and Braves situation to me. That's honestly how I'm viewing it. Like, if you really wanted him to stay, you would have gotten him paid by now. But if you are going to lose him, don't sit there and lose him for nothing. And the Spurs got plenty of pieces, intriguing pieces, that they could offer you. And something else I'm going to just throw your way too. Again, it's a very small sample size, but this is the best that the Hawks have looked under Quinn Snyder as the head coach in terms of the ball movement and just how they're playing since he got there. I don't know if Quinn Snyder and Trae Young are the best fit for each other from player to coach standpoint either.
And that very well may be true. I think so. I definitely see what you're saying as far as from the organizational standpoint of them not extending him before the season. That made a major headline just because if you had so much belief in him, then you would automatically go ahead and extend him before the season if you had that much belief. Now I'm looking at the front office is seeing they want to wait and see how they finish out this season before they extend that offer because they need to know if they can actually win with Trae Young. I mean, this is a legit, question. But the reason why I say that they should extend him is because this is the best team that you've put around him since he's been drafted. And so the play-in has been their ceiling every year. But also we have to understand outside of the 2021 season when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, you have not put anything around him that would make it, I see a lot of people saying like Giannis, he had Dame when he was in Milwaukee. You had PG before he had left to go to Philly. He had Kawhi in LA. Luka and LeBron have each other. No one had Trae. No one had Trae's back, not in the media, not to defend him from, the media, not to defend him from other teams. This is the reason why I feel like that he is such an important piece, and his success is dictated by what you put around him. Because for years we've heard Trae Young does not play winning basketball. But if your number 2 was John Collins, how much would you win? And me and you have talked about this before. We look at LaMelo Ball. He contributes nothing to winning. But also, we have to look at these teams. We can't look at teams like, let's look at the Knicks right now with Jalen Brunson. Since Jalen Brunson has gotten there, they have put pieces around him to help him be as successful as he is. Great individual talent, but would he have the team success if it weren't for the organization putting people around him? Now that you have the organization putting pieces around Trae Young, you gotta want to see what it can look like if you want to see what it looks like come full circle. That's my whole point with Trae Young. I don't want to see a situation where you give up on a guy. You saying, the first 7, 8 years of his career, we gave him nothing. The time we finally do give him something, he's up for extension. We're not going to extend him because we don't believe he can win for us in Atlanta. This is the first year you've actually given him a legit shot at winning with a wide open Eastern Conference. This is why I say I get why the organization didn't extend him before the season, but I could see a situation where if like San Antonio would have to give me back my first round pick that I owe them before I could even think about giving them Trae Young. The only way I would entertain the idea, you have to give me some of those young guys like Keldon Johnson, give me back my first round pick. Those would be the only type of situation where I could see them wanting to move off Trae Young if they got the offer that they, couldn't refuse. Trae going to San Antonio team up with Victor Wembanyama would be scary. But then also I feel like, what would you do with De'Aaron Fox? With Dylan Harper coming into his own, you would have to move off De'Aaron Fox. So I'm looking at that as one of the most interesting packages that you could possibly put together.
Yeah, you brought up Keldon Johnson. I'm sitting here thinking in terms of can you get a Dylan Harper or maybe even a De'Aaron Fox in exchange for Trae Young? Because my biggest concern about San Antonio coming into the season is the fact that they are too guard heavy. So I'm wondering if that could have possibly been a part of it too. I saw somewhere on Twitter, formerly known as X, someone proposing the exchange of Trae Young and Ja Morant. That is a terrible idea. So let's not even go down that rabbit hole.
You would get that trade to me makes no sense because you would go from a guy who a slightly you would get a drop off in playmaking. John Morant doesn't play the best defense either. And it to me that trade makes no sense because what would be the return on investment? If anything, I look at Trae as a higher player than John Morant. Um, outside of his athleticism, John Morant to me has been one of those players that peaked out at like his second or third year when they made that run in the playoffs and they were going against Golden State, and it was, if it may have not been for that knee injury, then possibly looking at them as going into like possibly the Western Conference Finals that year. Other than that, John Morant has not progressed at all. He has not progressed. If anything, he's regressed from a year-to-year standpoint. And no, I would like that would honestly be one of the dumbest trades, and it would make me question my fandom of being a fan of the Hawks if they were to do that, because you would lose something in both scoring and playmaking. Like the defense to me is about the same. I know John Morant can block a couple of shots, but he's not the greatest defender either. He just gives more effort. But I would hate that package. That would honestly be the worst head up trade that I ever seen.
I do think there's a world where the Hawks could and possibly should trade Trae Young, but it's got to be for the right package. San Antonio would probably be the first call that I would make because they got so many young pieces there, and I would have to get one of those young guards in return for sure. But it's interesting. We'll see how it continues to play out. I just hope they don't end up in a situation where they end up losing him and they don't get anything in return for him. That would be terrible.
Right.
Well, the New York Giants, let's get back to the NFL. They made headlines earlier this week, firing Brian Daboll on Monday after a blown 10-point lead on Sunday, KB, against the Chicago Bears. The Bears coming back and winning 24-20 after being down 20-10. It's the fourth double-digit lead that the Giants have blown in the fourth quarter this year. Should be noted that Jackson Dart went out of that game with a concussion. Russell Wilson came in, and I think we officially saw the end of Russell Wilson's NFL career as a result of that as well, because I said the moment that I saw Russell checking out, I was like, okay, this is a big spot for him and his future in the league, and rest assured they went out there and they lost the game. So hopefully that's not the end of Russ, because I believe he's been one of the best stewardsmen in terms of ambassadors for the game, but it's not looking that great. Jameis Winston is expected to start on Sunday for the Giants because Jackson Dart is still in concussion protocol. Mike Kafka has been named the interim coach. I don't know if firing Brian Daboll right now is the right move, because I think he's played a huge role in the success that Jackson Dart's been able to have in his rookie season. But I do question why Joe Schoen is still there, and why Joe Schoen is also going to be the person who is going to get to lead the search on who this next head coach is going to be. He has not put together a great roster at all, especially in terms of the offense, the offensive line, and he has not done a great job at all. This is the same man who gave Daniel Jones an extension. This is the same man who let Saquon Barkley walk out of that door. I don't know what the future of the New York Giants is at this point. One name that people have been floating around this week is Mike Tomlin. I could see it, because things are going sideways right now in Pittsburgh in terms of how the season started versus how it's looking like it's going to go, because the Baltimore Ravens are on their way back. They are one game back in this division now, and they're getting guys back healthy. They are a totally different team when Lamar Jackson is out there, as we see. There was also a poll that came out this week that said Lamar Jackson was voted the most overrated player in the NFL. I don't know who did that, but you shouldn't be allowed to vote, quite honestly, because all Lamar Jackson does is win football games. I know he hasn't won the big one yet, but I would much rather have Lamar Jackson as my quarterback than probably about 85% of the other quarterbacks in the league. Just your thoughts on the New York Giants making this move right now.
Like you said, I don't necessarily think that might have been the right move. I understand that like it was only a matter of time though after certain pieces fell off. Like I said, you had season-ending injuries to Cam Scatterbo and Malik Neighbors, so that took a good portion of your offensive production away. And with Jackson Dart receiving a concussion in that game, it was just like the wheels fell off at that point. And like I said, this is more of a organizational problem as well because you have not surrounded that team with enough weapons. New York being the mecca of sports, the fact that they have not been able to attract some of these key free agents and become the team of like the early 2010s that we grew up seeing, the teams that were competing for championships. This is kind of like one of those things where I'm not trusting the GM at all. Like, I have no trust in him to find a competent head coach. I'm not even a competent head coach, the right head coach for this team, because I didn't even have trust in him to make a draft. Oh, go ahead, X. Go ahead.
You brought up the word draft. I feel like it has to be mentioned that Brian Daboll was the one person reported in that building with the Giants organization who campaigned really hard to draft Jackson Dart and draft Malik Neighbors. That was not led by Joe Schoen and his staff.
And that's a good point because this is also the guy that passed up on Jaden Daniels. So when I look at all this, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. You are the same guy that let Saquon Barkley walk. Not only walk, he walked to a divisional, walked in the division and won a championship. Daniel Jones, you gave him an extension. And now it's kind of looking like Daniel Jones may not have been the quarterback that, was a franchise guy, but he's thriving in Indianapolis. He's showing that he can be a good piece when you put the right pieces around him. I just think that the Giants are a mess right now. We may have seen the end of Russell Wilson's career, which I still think that he can be, a pretty decent starting quarterback because, like I said, it's a number of teams that I'm still not sold on their quarterback play. Cleveland being one, Jacksonville being another. It's still teams that actually could use, some veteran leadership from the quarterback position. So I don't think that, while he has not been good since he's left Seattle, I still think that he can play the quarterback position better than some of these teams have put out on the field. I think that Jameis Winston, he presents a different type of game style because I do think Jameis, one thing he can do is get the ball downfield. So regardless of anything, Jameis Winston presents them with a chance to possibly win a game. So I do think that he is going to give them an opportunity to win, but I just think organizationally, the Giants are too much of a mess to save. I think Brian Daboll was a scapegoat because the one who needs to be fired, who should have been fired, not now, but years ago, I just think that the GM, he's been skating by him and letting Brian Daboll get the bulk of the blame for the reason why this team is not in a position to win right now. And that's where I'm at with the whole thing.
We'll wait to see what happens with the Giants, but I'm glad you brought up Jacksonville because there's something that I need to go ahead and get off my chest right now. Trevor Lawrence is not it, man. He's not it. I know we've came on here a couple of times and I've praised him for certain performances throughout the season because I've been a big believer in Trevor Lawrence since his Clemson days. So is our good friend Matt Craig. Matt hasn't said this. I'm going to say it for me, though. Trevor Lawrence is officially now the prince that is no longer promised. You had a more than 3 touchdown lead or pretty close to it on Sunday against the Houston Texans, who did not have CJ Stroud playing quarterback on Sunday. And you lost that game. That is unbelievable to me, KB. They were up 29-10. And I'm like, yep, all right, this will be a good win for Jacksonville, keeping pace with Indianapolis in the AFC South race. And Davis Mills walked them down. I do want to say this, though, really quickly before we continue with Trevor Lawrence. Shout out to Sheldon Rankins, who got that game sealing interception pick 6 for the Houston Texans off of Trevor Lawrence. That's a Newton County guy, for those of you who don't know. He went to Eastside High School, graduated, went to Louisville, played with Lamar Jackson in his time at Louisville. So just want to shout out the hometown guy there really quickly. But yeah, man, Trevor Lawrence is not it. Jacksonville gave their money to the wrong guy. I'm questioning if they should have kept Mac Jones around now, because I don't know if Mac Jones would have been thriving with this organization the way that he's thrived for a good chunk of this season with the San Francisco 49ers and the structure they have in place there. Maybe it's Jacksonville as a whole. I don't know, meaning the organization. But the Trevor Lawrence that we saw at Clemson has not translated to anything close to the Trevor Lawrence that we saw in the NFL. I'm going to rattle off 12 names for you, KB. And I want you to tell me, I'm not even going to rattle off 12. It's 5 that I know for a fact neither one of us are going to say Trevor Lawrence is better than. And that would be Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and I'll throw Jalen Hurts in there too. Now, I'm going to throw you some more names. Would you rather have Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence?
Justin Herbert, easily.
Would you rather have Jaden Daniels when he's healthy or Trevor Lawrence?
Jaden Daniels.
Would you rather have Dak Prescott or Trevor Lawrence?
Dak Prescott.
Would you rather have Matt Stafford or Trevor Lawrence?
Matt Stafford.
Would you rather have Baker Mayfield or Trevor Lawrence?
Baker.
Okay, we're at 10 names now. I'm going to throw you another name. CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence?
As bad as CJ Stroud hasn't, as bad as he's looked since, his rookie season, I'm still going CJ.
Because a lot of that can be blamed on the lack of offensive line that the Houston Texans have.
Correct.
So we're at 11.
You haven't even named.
Older Aaron Rodgers, even right now, or Trevor Lawrence?
Aaron Rodgers.
That is 12 names.
And you didn't even name Jared Goff.
I did not. I didn't name Jared Goff. I didn't name Bo Nix. I didn't name Jordan Love.
Yep. So that's 15 right there. 15, exactly. 16 names.
Exactly. So now we're going to the bottom tier part of the league at this point. I might even throw out a couple of names like Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams. I don't know if I would want Trevor Lawrence over them, because my biggest problem when it comes down to Michael Penix Jr. is the structure that he has around him or in Atlanta, or the lack thereof. So there is a legitimate argument if Trevor Lawrence is actually a top 20, not top 10, not top 5, not even top 15. There is a legit argument if he is a top 20 quarterback in the NFL.
And ladies and gentlemen, we didn't even mention, I'm taking Sam Darnold over him as well.
Sam was the big name I forgot about.
Drake May. You didn't even mention Drake May. So I'm like, he definitely is not. He's on the back half. If he's top 20, he's 20. There's not even he's not bad. I wouldn't take him over Brock Purdy. And he's not a top 20 quarterback. He is not good in this system. I don't know if he would be good in a lot of systems. I just think that the billing that he came into the league with, he was touted as a generational prospect. Was he or was he not?
He was. And I can tell you for a fact that this is Liam Cohen's offense that's being ran in Jacksonville, and I do believe it is. I can tell you for a fact that it works because I watched it all of last season when Baker Mayfield was running it.
Yes. And Baker Mayfield ran it to perfection last year. And that's why I know that Trevor Lawrence needs to accept the criticism that comes with him playing the way he's playing, because there's no way that you lose that game on Sunday. Not up 29-10. There's no way. Get walked down by Davis Mills with no CJ Stroud to an already depleted Houston offense makes no sense. Now, their defense, I can completely understand. Their defense has been the calling card for them all season, but yeah, there's no way that Trevor Lawrence can escape the blame that he should be receiving, and he is warranted every single bit. And not just this season. Trevor Lawrence has not really had one really standout year that I could say he was a top quarterback. I say top 5 to top 10 quarterback in the league. I have not seen one year that would make me say that Trevor Lawrence is that.
It just goes to show you that there is a huge difference in between college and NFL, because when he was at Clemson, he had so much that was around him too, just in terms of really good offensive lines, weapons, great defenses, all of that. It just goes to show you that. And there's a reason why you see some of these top tier quarterbacks at these elite college programs that get it all right on all sides of the football. They come to the NFL and they're not ready because they haven't had to deal with much adversity in terms of being a quarterback, at least on the college level.
Example being Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa. These two are a team play for great college programs that were loaded. Let's just put it out there. They were loaded on both sides of the ball. They didn't have to face too much adversity at all. They were year in, year out, one of the best teams and top programs in the entire college football landscape. So now that we're seeing that it doesn't translate to the NFL because they don't have the same level of talent that they had in college. Tua, we definitely see it being, he's regressed almost every year. Outside of one great year that I saw with Mike McDaniel at the helm, they've looked bad. Outside of the one time that I can say that Trevor Lawrence looked good when they choked against the Chargers in the playoffs. Oh, I'm sorry, that the Chargers choked. Outside of that comeback that he had against Justin Herbert, I haven't seen anything from him that would make me be like, this is my franchise guy. And honestly, do you think that they're in the market for a quarterback as well, like looking into the draft or looking at possibly free agency?
I think they're looking more so at free agency. I don't think they're looking at the draft. Jacksonville has a good roster around them. The fact that I'm hearing that there were trade rumors at one point about Brian Thomas Jr. during the season, that's absolutely ridiculous. Brian Thomas Jr. would make some of these other quarterbacks possible MVPs if he had them on their roster right now. Could you imagine if you gave Brian Thomas Jr. to Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson right now? And forget those guys for a second, because those are the cream of the crop quarterbacks. Imagine if you gave Brian Thomas Jr. to Drake May to go alongside Stefon Diggs.
They don't want to see that. I'm gonna just let y'all know that right now. You give Drake May a weapon like that with the weapons that he already has. He even has Mac Hollins looking like a top receiver. I don't think people understand like the value of great quarterback play in this league. That is why I say that some guys either have it or they don't have it. Some guys are they can either be coached up or they either have that talent coming into the league. Trevor Lawrence, I just don't think that he is worth the price tag that he has right now. I don't think that he was worth all of the hype that he came into it with. We were talking about him being touted as a generational prospect. Even when he came into Clemson, he had I think he had a perfect quarterback rating, perfect 5-star rating coming out of high school as one of the top high school prospects ever recruited. So I just think that he is not the answer at quarterback position for the Jaguars. And with Liam Cohen being at the helm, I think that I do believe in him as a coach. I do believe that he has something that he can provide to Jacksonville as far as some stability. I think that he just hasn't found the right quarterback to lead the charge.
So we will wait to see if Jacksonville is in the market for a quarterback or not, or if somehow, some way, Trevor Lawrence can get it turned around. But we are starting to run out of time here. Look, at some point, you are what you are going to be. I mean, that's how I feel about Zion Williamson in the NBA at this point. You are what you're going to be. And we're going into, what is this now, KB? This is year 5 of the Trevor Lawrence experiment. It's possibly year 6.
I think it is year 6. I believe it is. I believe it is year 6.
See, we're starting to go into veteran territory now. And at some point, you just are going to be what you're going to be. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. It's a pleasure to always be here with you every single week. We'll be back here next week as more things continue to unfold in the sports world. KB, you got anything you want to close out with?
Nah, man. I just want to tell everyone, as we're winding down college football season, expect some good things coming up because, like I said, we're due for exciting playoffs. I am looking forward to see if, Ohio State and Indiana can keep it rolling because, we are coming into a situation where, Ohio State hasn't really been tested yet. So I really am looking forward to potentially seeing that Ohio State Indiana Big Ten championship. If we get that, we might see something. So I'm looking forward to that game. Just want to say, have a great weekend, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing y'all next week.
I echo that 100% for KB. I'm X, and we saying peace.
Peace.